Yes, as Victor said, I am Lukas, and I currently work with these people in the corner here as a freelancer on Skandiabanken. But I'm also part of an open source collective called Bluefire, and we develop a lot of different things for the Dart and Flutter ecosystem. And our biggest package is called Flame, which is a game engine for Flutter. And if you were here 2 meetups ago, I think you got to hear a little bit more about that. And today we're just gonna do some like basic introduction to Flame with some live coding. So we'll probably hit lots of bugs and whatever, but we'll have fun, hopefully. So, in Flame, you don't really, if you just want to make a game without menus or anything, you don't need that much Flutter code. So this is the only thing that you need to, that is the Flutter part. You have to create your game, which is, here we call our game Flappy Ember. I'm going to show you a bit more what is in there. And then you just do run app and put your game in a game widget. So I'm just going to fix that. This like this. Oops. And there we have a terminal. Yes, so the first thing you do when you, after you have done this, of course, so you have your main method, so you can run your game. Then you start to create your game, and you extend something called Flame Game. That is, you can extend. We have several different types of game classes, but the most commonly used one is Flame Game. If you want to use, for example, Forge 2D, which is our port of Box 2D, then you can use Forge 2D game here instead, and it will help you a little bit more with that. And to get started here, we're going to do something like a very simple Flappy Birds clone or something. And in your Flame game, you want to override something called onload. And in onload, you will do all the loading that you want to be done before the game starts. So let's continue and do that. And so in here you can load images and assets, and you can, if you have something that needs to be generating or something, you can have it in here. And then in your game widget, you can have a splash screen or something showing meanwhile this is loading. So that is quite handy. But what we want in here is maybe we should start with having a player for our Flappy Birds game. And I have just made a simple player class here. And the basic thing in Flame, the basic building block is called a component. And we have lots of pre-built components in Flame. And here we're going to use a sprite animation component. And the only thing that does is taking a sprite sheet and making it into an animation. And for the ones that don't know what a sprite sheet is, it looks something like this. We will use a very simple sprite sheet today. So this is only 4 images in a row, and you play them quickly, and it looks like an animation. Or it is an animation, I guess. And to do this, you load here in this component. You also have an onload method. So before it is added to something called the component tree, which lives in the game, it will run onload, and then when it's ready, then it will be put into the tree. So if you add this component in your onload method on the game, then that one will wait for this one to load too. And in here, we just load that image that I showed you into the cache. So here we have a global cache, which is called flame.images, but you can also have several caches, and the game also has a cache of its own. And this one I prepared before because I would have totally forgotten what the size of these little things were, but apparently they are 16 times 16 pixels. And we have three? I'm pretty sure it was 4 here, right? Yep, so we have, even though I have prepared it, it's messed up. So we changed that to 4. And the step time is the amount of seconds it should be in between the frames. So now it will be like 0.12 seconds between each frame. And this one is inheriting from something, a basic component that we call a position component. And a position component is something that is usually shown on the screen. It has a position, and it has a scale, and it has an angle, and it has a size. So now if we go ahead and add this little player to the game here. Just make a new one like that. And we probably have to import it here. And then run it and see what happens. Now I don't really know where it will end up, so we'll see. Okay, yeah, our first bug, hooray. Let's see what it says here then. Unable to load asset. Assets image Ember. Okay, so then we have either put it in the wrong place or forgot to put it in their pubspec file. So let's start looking here. And yes, we have forgot to put it here. Assets and images, and then we can just have everything in there. So let's run it again. Yeah, so if you haven't used assets in Flutter, you have to add them into the pubspec file for them to bundle it into what it's going to run. And if you want to bundle whole folders, you can just write the folder there, but it won't go down recursively. So now it's running, but we can't see it. And that is because it doesn't have a size yet. So right now, it is at position 0, 0, and it has size 0, 0. So it is somewhere here, but with 0 pixels. So let's add that. And, oops, since this is a position component, then we can just add the position here. So say that we just want to put it at 100 pixels, 100, and we want it to be okay. Yeah, if you have used GitHub Copilot, sometimes it's very useful and sometimes it just gives you gibberish. And now it complains something here. Oh. So now we can see if we can see our little player. And I guess meanwhile that one loads, we can continue to make like a really simple background maybe. And if you're like me, you're like very bad at making graphical assets and stuff, and you want to make a game, I can really recommend itch.io because they have lots of game assets which are really cheap. So yeah, there it is. It's finally moving and we can see it. So let's try to add a background to this. And for our first background, we will just have like some sky background, and that one doesn't need to be animated, so we can just have it as a sky component. And that one, we don't need a position or size on it yet. And in the sprite component, you instead have to give it a sprite. And you do this by we need to load another image here. And I think I stored one here. So when you load images, it by default it always looks in images, assets/images, but you can configure that what you want, where you want your images on the cache. So let's try that, and we want to give it a sprite. But now we will for this we will have the same problem as we did with the little player. It won't have a size and it won't have a position. But the position is fine because we want it to, since it's a background, we want it to start in the top left corner, which is the default anyways. But we want it to change when the screen size change. Oh, that is almost correct, but it's not really. What is it complaining at now? Oh. Like that, hooray. Let's see if it gives us a... Oh, I'm very unused to Macs, so... Let's see if we get oh, we don't get a background, and we don't get background because we have forgotten to add background to our game. So just like the player, we have to add the background here. What did we call it? Sky, right? And we have to import that too. And then run. And now you can see we have a background, but our player disappeared. Yes, exactly. It is rendered in front of the player. So in Flame, we have something called priority, which handles the Z index. But if you don't add priority, the priority is by default 0, and it will render in the order that things were added. So if I add the sky before the player, then it should hopefully end up behind the player. And then what should we do next? Maybe add so that we can move the player. So then, since it's a Flappy bird, you can we can say that we can click anywhere on the game, and it should like give the player some speed upwards. And in let's make this big. In Flame, we have something called effects, and so that is something that is running along with the game loop and updating the thing that it's attached to all the time. So now, for example, we'll use a move effect that has like curve upwards. But first, we will add something called a tap detector, so that we can detect taps on the game. And we don't really care about where it was tapped or anything, so then we can just use it like that. But we need a reference to the player here too. So let's... And if you have any questions, just go ahead and ask them, or we can take them afterwards, whatever you prefer. So now, say, what is it? I don't know. We can call the method like fly or something, and that should bring the player upwards. So let's add that method to the player here. And now we want to create a move effect. And the move effect, you can have like a move to effect or a move by effect. So the move to effect will be that you move it to a specific position, and the move by effect will be that it moves relative to its current position. So say that we want to maybe bring it upwards with, so we don't want to move it in the x-axis, but we want to bring it upwards in the y-axis. So maybe 100 pixels upwards. And in effects, we have something called an effect controller that you have to add, which is quite powerful. And in the effect controller, you can add, oh, that is impossible for you to read, but you can add a lot of different things to define how this effect should be performed. So right now, we can say, yes, that this should be during a duration of, I don't know, half a second maybe. Let's try that first. And it should have a curve. And if you don't know it, Flutter has a really nice like curves library or whatever. It's like already built into Flutter, and you can choose between lots and lots of curves there, which will make it a little bit more interesting. And we can use that curve here. Oh no, does it? Oh. I hoped it would auto-format here, but apparently not. Let's fix that later. And to add an effect, you don't do what GitHub Copilot says. You just do add and an effect, and it will affect its parents. So now you saw in the game, there we added the player and the background directly to the game, but now we add an effect to the player. And you can, so this is called the Flame Component System, or FCS for short. And you can add components in all kind of weird, like wherever you want in the tree. So if I would want to give this player a weapon, for example, that I don't want to like position manually with the player, I can just add a weapon component to the player, and it will automatically follow the player wherever that one is rendered. So that you only define in your weapon where it should be relative to what it has been added to. And it doesn't have to be anything visual that you add. Like here, like the effect is just something affecting parameters of the parents. So yeah, let's try that and see what happens. Oh, yeah, goes up, but now it's gone. So game over. So we need to add some gravity or something. What? Now it auto-formatted it. Magic. So I guess I just have to close the window and auto-format it for me. So we can add a little bit of we'll do this the more like manual way, because then you will learn what the update method is. Whoops, daisy. The keyboard is pressing the other keyboard. Let's see. And the update method, that one runs hopefully at least 60 times per second, depending on what device you have. And this DT, that means delta time, and that is the time from the last time it ran update. So it first runs update, and then it runs render, and then it runs update again, and then render, and back and forth, and back and forth. And this, it should be able to do at least 60 times per second, so that you get 60 FPS. So first of all, we can like add some constant here that says how much it should go downwards. So I don't know, falling speed maybe. And let's have it go downward in double the speed as we can go upwards. So this will be 200 pixels per second when we're done with this. And to make it go downward, we can just use the position, because this is a position component, and we want to change the Y on there. Oh, and here, actually go GitHub Copilot managed. So we want to go down with 200 pixels per second, and that's why we times it with the dt here, so the delta time from the last. So it will only move down very, very little for each little frame. And it complains here because it wants we're doing things in the super dot updates, so we should call that too. So let's see if it is falling now. No, it's going upwards because the coordinate system is 0, 0 in the top left corner, and yeah, the further down you go, the bigger it goes. Let's change that to a plus. Let's see if it goes downwards. And now if we click here, then we can get some form of little Flappy Birds effect. And then what should we do next? Maybe we can add a hitbox so that we're gonna die if we like go to the edge. And so Flame has built-in collision detection, and you just have to add the mix in here with collision detection. Because you don't... What? Oh, it got angry. Oh, no. Oh, it has collision detection, is that it? Yes. And right now, our player is just a square. So we have something called debug mode in Flame. So we can, and debug mode you can turn on and off. If I turn it on here, for example, then we will be able to see some information about the components that that we added it on. So here you can see there's a little, it's very hard to read it, but it's a square around it, and up in the top left corner it says what position it has, and in the top bottom right corner it says what size it has. But as you can see now, this one is just a square, and we wanted to have a little bit better collision detection than that, so we're going to add a hitbox to it. And the hitbox, since that one is, you can add multiple hitboxes if you have like an advanced, if you have if you have, I don't know, a human or something, then it's very hard to just add one rectangle or one circle or something. But since this one is fairly round, we can just add one circle that should fill the whole rectangle that is in. And to do that, you simply do add circle hitbox. And if you don't add any parameter to the hitbox, it will just fill the whole space that it can. But you can, if you want to, then you can position it and you can make set the size of it and so on. So now if we run this again, then you will be able to see that there is, you see that there's a circle around there. It's very hard, but you'll have to believe me. And it's like quite nicely covering that one. And then if we want to react to when we hit the, whoops, where did it go? When it hits the frame of the screen, then we can go to the game and we can add a hitbox to that one, or this one is called screen hitbox. And that one automatically sizes with the screen so that it always covers the whole screen. And then we can do some simple thing here that whatever should happen when it is game over, then we can do like, we can pause the engine if it's game over. Then it will be quite clear to see that it has stopped. So then we need to tell the player what should happen if we actually hit something. And to do this, we need to have collision detection callbacks. And so every time it hits another, it will be easier when you see it in code. So when you hit something else that has hitboxes, what is it again? On collision. What? So, like always, the best documentation is the code itself. So we can do on collision start, for example. And you can also react to on collision end and just on collision. So on collision start, obviously, it gets called when it starts colliding with something, and on collision end is when it stops colliding with something, and everything in between there is on collision. And the first parameter is the intersection points, but we don't really care about intersection points, so we can just put it like that. And the second parameter is what it has collided with, but we also don't care with that, because we die whatever we collide with. So now we do that, and now we want to call this game over method that we added to the game. And to do that, we have to add something called game ref here. And the game ref mixin makes sure that you have access to the game. It adds itself when it gets added to the game. And you want to have the correct type there. So then we can just do gameref dot game over. So let's see if we can lose now. Okay, so this one actually wants us to hand this over here. Let's do that. And let's see, now we go here, and let's go up to the top and die, and everything pauses. So here, if you would have here is where you would want to add the power of Flutter, because now you want to have like a game over menu, and you want some score and stuff. And to add that, you use something called the overlays API, but I won't show you that today, but just so you know. Let's see, how much time do I have, by the way? All right, then let's add some, I don't know, some obstacles maybe? Or we can speed it up a little bit, because I've prepared some things there. Like I told you earlier, like if you can't draw anything, like me, then like itch.io is super nice to just get assets for your game. Like I bought this asset pack yesterday for $5 or something, and it looks like completely amazing. Like it has, I don't know, like loads and loads of trees, and what do we have? Some parallax backgrounds, and so like even with very little code and nice assets, you can make a really nice game very quickly, even when you haven't made the assets yourself. So actually, we can just pull in one of those parallaxes, and you can see that. So I think that one was parallax. So let's see, what does this complain about? Not sure what this one is complaining. Oh yeah, we don't have the variable speed on our game, because we haven't set any speed yet. So let's create a speed variable here. Oh, that's not the game. So that one will just be double and speed, and this is the we want to go per second sideways. So I don't know, let's do 400 maybe. And then we can see here that it is now happy. And this is a super simple parallax. I don't even think you could call this one parallax, but you could use this component to create a parallax, because a parallax is something with multiple layers that moves in different speeds. So imagine being on a train, for example. Things that are closest to you, they move very fast, but like the mountains very far away, they will be moving much, much slower, like from your perspective. So it gives like even these kind of 2D games like sense of depth. But right now we're just adding a single layer, which will be this path thing which we had here, so that we will have something to like give us the sense of speed, at least, that we're moving, because right now we're just flying around in the sky. And we just add that to the game, and add that here, and import it. And we have a site called examples.flameengine.org, and you can see examples for all our components there. So if you all for code for all examples too. Whoops. So if you, oh no, where did the editor go? Nope, this one is dead. I don't know. I've actually gone surprisingly well. I thought we would hit more bugs, and I would be standing here sweating, you know, not be able to solve them. So let's start that one again. It'll take a little while. So except for the examples.flameengine.org, where you can find examples of all of our components. Then we also have docs.flameengine.org, where our docs are, and we have tutorials.flameengine.org, which has a very small tutorial, which is a little bit too small to be able to call a tutorial now, but we have plenty of user-generated tutorials. Okay, we don't see any ground here. What have we done wrong? So we add, yeah, right. So this one I had actually set priority -1 to, and that means that it's now behind the sky, because the default priority is 0, and we didn't set a priority to the sky. So let's set a priority there. And if we set it to the same one, and we add the sky before that one, it will appear behind it. So now if we get it, so then actually it was running correctly when I restarted it. So there we have it, but we have died before we managed to get to it, so let's be a little bit quicker. So now we have a little bit of a sense that we're like going forward. So now we just don't have anything to, like it doesn't speed up, and we don't have anything to like collide with. So it's quite simple so far. I think pretty much anyone could finish this game. Or, well, not finish it, because it doesn't have an end. It will be like Sisyphus. And since we don't have that much time, I'll just pull in some of the boxes that I added. And here I also just used some of the assets from that pack that I bought. And so this is all the code for like loading a sprite, and it adds a rectangle hitbox to this one, because it is just a rectangle. And here I like stack some of these boxes on top of each other. So since the image looks like this, it looks like that and like that. When we're building from below, we have to calculate where the next box should be, because it shouldn't be straight above it. It should be like on top here. Otherwise it looks very weird when the boxes come on top of each other. So that's what I'm doing in this box stack thing. And then we can, let's copy some more code here. Here we have some, added some speed and some time since the last box has appeared and when we should add boxes and so on. So let's just add that to our game. And right now we don't have an update method here, so that's good. Then we can just add it. And we don't have a time since box. So let's add one of those here. Double time since box 0. And it doesn't have this imported. And the box interval is how often it should have a box appearing. So maybe we want a box every, I don't know, every second maybe? I have no idea, maybe that will be very hard. And I saw that we wanted to have a random thing down there too, so let's go ahead and add that directly. And I want start math. And there we have those ones. So let's see if it will run with those boxes now. Oh shit, and now I have probably died again. Okay, so here you can see some boxes. Oh, it's actually lagging a little bit now. I don't know why. It's probably because, no idea. And then like this will also and also open a terminal, so you can't see that. And so here we added the debug mode just on top of the player, but we could just as well add the debug mode straight on top of the game, and then everything will have the debug mode activated, which is very useful when debugging things. Yeah, so now you can see that there are squares around these ones too, and you can go in and crash into them. And I think that's about all my time, right? Yes, then I will upload the source code, or the source code is already on my GitHub, which is just github/spydon. So if you want to play around more with this, you can go ahead with that. Thank you for listening. The mic again. But it was a question to me, I guess.
Yes, but for the recording, it's good if we hear the question.
Oh, smart. I thought you meant this mic.
Great work.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask about the physics classes that you provide to tease out the process, like simulating the physics environment.
Yeah. So
can you demonstrate some of?
Yeah,
some
sure.
part of
I can do a
like
very quick demonstration here. So if you're not familiar with Box 2D, it is something that a genius guy called Erin Kato made. Maybe I don't know, 15 years ago. Like what is it called? Not Flappy Birds. The thing where you throw pigs and shit. It's
Angry
yes,
Birds.
Angry Birds. That one. That game would have been nowhere without Box 2D. Like everything in there is based on Box 2D. They have just put some nice fancy things on it and then they earn billions on it. And Erin Kato, he has made Box 2D as an open source project. And they didn't even thank him until he was at one of their conferences and he's like, so which physics engine are you using? Like maybe I could be in the credits at least. So here is examples.engine.org, and here you have the classic one like that. And down here we have started to add things for our bridge packages that we call them. So Forge 2D is a completely separate Dart project that we have. You don't even need to use Flutter to use it. So we use these bridge classes that are flame underscore and then whatever they bridge to. And now Forge 2D. So Flame Forge 2D. And here you can see like some blob with some joints, and yeah, you can like do all kinds of crazy things in here. And if you saw anything on Google I/O, I made they just released Flame on Dartpad there. So they asked me to make a little game for Dartpad. So if you go into there, they just released something called. But anyways, one of the links there that is to that game, which is also using Forge 2D, and it's called Pad Racing, and you're racing on Dartpad with two little cars, is what it's called. And here, yeah, you have all kinds of weird things here that you can do. Just go in here, play around, and you'll get some more feeling of the physics.
Add to your project Flutter package.
Exactly. So first you add Flame, just like any other Flutter package, in your PubSpec file. So show that here. Oh, now the keyboard is on the. All right. So normally you wouldn't depend on Git. You would just write the version here, and the current version is 1.1.1. But tomorrow or something we will release 1.2. We're just waiting for one bug fix. And then you have Flame there, and then if you want to add Flame Forge 2D, you do the same, but with Flame Forge 2D underneath. Or if you want to have audio, for example, we connect to another package that we have made is called Audio Players, and then it's Flame underscore audio. Any more questions?
And any other packages that you can recommend to use to make better games?
We have a package that bridges to Rive, which is an animation engine, which is really cool. Like, if you want to make really pretty games, I can really recommend Rive. And then we have a bridge package to something called Tiled too, which you can build your game in something called a tiled editor, and then you can get a lot of help from that.
And any plans for 3D games?
You can't really do 3D games in Flutter yet because they don't have full support for shaders and buffers. But there is like game tag on Flutter and on Dart on their GitHubs, and one of our team members, which is called Joachim Wolfenrein, he is moderating that. So he's tagging all the like pull requests and issues and stuff with game, and there are quite some that are related to shaders. So you can use some shaders today on desktop. It doesn't work on web.
Okay.
Any more questions?
With the other keyboard also?
No. yeah, I can, but I feel stupid. It feels so unnatural. All right. Thanks a lot.